From destroying world champions to throwing out predictions for other bouts, Jon Jones always has an opinion to give. This time he's predicting the victor of the fourth Adesanya-Pereira fight. And let's just say he's not on Team Izzy. While Adesanya seems hell-bent on getting revenge, there are a bunch of people who don't think he'll emerge triumphant from the octagon.
All these feints.
Yep. Oh,
look at that.
That right hand of Blachowicz starting to become a factor.
Front of Blachowicz. That jab. That was a nice jab.
well, apart from the outside, and not do much a little bit, because as we saw with Izzy versus
Come UFC 287, one of those people is the infamous Jon Jones. Now, Jones is not someone you take lightly. The dude has a ton of experience and is usually right when it comes to accurately predicting the outcome of future fights. I mean, he's predicted a win every time he's fought, and you see where that got him. According to Jones, Adesanya can work as hard as he wants, but there's just no way he'll be able to emerge triumphant in the upcoming fight against Pereira. That's certainly a bold statement to make, considering Adesanya almost managed to beat Pereira the last time they met in the octagon. If Israel can just figure out a way to avoid getting knocked out, he'll be able to come out with a victory without breaking much of a sweat. Still, you have to wonder whether Jones might be right on this one. Honestly, Pereira seems to be the people's favorite as well. At this point, it's clear that the Brazilian is Adesanya's version of kryptonite. Israel's managed to defeat every single fighter who stepped up and tried to take his belt away from him. However, when it comes to Alex Pereira, he managed to lose every single fight he's fought against him. It's pretty baffling how Adesanya does so well throughout his fights against the guy and still ends up losing at the last minute.
Declaring the winner by TKO and new UFC undisputed middleweight champion of the world, Alex Pereira!
From what I can tell, no matter how good the 33-year-old gets, Pereira somehow manages to keep up with the ex-champ. Besides, because Adesanya has lost 3 fights to this guy, you'd think he'd have given up at this point. That said, he seems to be as confident as ever. Who knows? Maybe he's faking it. I know for a fact that if I lost a fight to the same guy 3 times, I wouldn't have it in me to go for a 4th round. If Adesanya's confidence wavers even for a second, a predator like Pereira will probably end up pouncing and making him regret it. Although if you think about it, Jones' statement might be a little biased. That's because he and Adesanya haven't seen eye to eye on things over the years. Now, I'm not saying that these two are mortal enemies. All I'm suggesting is the fact that they may not share the highest opinion of one another. In fact, over the years, they've thrown a bunch of shade each other's way, and things tend to get heated between them more often than not. When you have someone as ruthless as Jon Jones coming after you, you know you've got to step up your game. Plus, if I'm being honest, Adesanya has managed to improve at a rapid pace over the years. It's like every time he comes back to the octagon, he's managed to reinvent himself as a fighter.
That's really kind of... Oh, he stunned him!
Oh, big left and a right. Now the uppercut and the knee. Brunson is down. Adesanya with another knee. Brunson smiles it. Oh!
This is also how he manages to surprise his opponents time and time again. There was even talk of Jones and Adesanya going at it with one another in a super fight. I'm not gonna lie, that's the type of fight that would draw a crowd of millions. If there's anyone in the UFC who has a chance of breaking Jones's winning streak, it's gotta be Israel Adesanya. Now, because Pereira doesn't seem to be something special, you have to wonder how he keeps beating the last style bender. Well, maybe he's just figured out Adesanya's one true weakness. Okay, before y'all start talking about how Adesanya's ground game is weak, you have to remember that Pereira managed to beat the guy in a stand-up fight. So the big question is, how has he managed to do that again and again? The simplest answer I can give is that Pereira has managed to figure out Adesanya's weakness, and it's something that even Israel himself hasn't quite grasped yet. That's not uncommon if you think about it. The 33-year-old is in no way past his prime, which means he still has time to figure out what keeps going wrong. For Israel's sake, I hope that he manages to figure out what the issue is before it's too late. It's pretty common knowledge that his bout with Pereira at UFC 287 will probably be his last chance at beating the dude. If he doesn't manage to come up with a solid game plan by then, it might be permanent curtains for the ex-champ.
Pereira's had his most success with the body tonight.
Oh!
Here's that left hook.
He hurt him bad.
Oh, and now a right. Adesanya's on one leg. Two more. Down goes the champion. Pereira trying to close the show. That'll do it.
He did it. He did it again.
Let's Pereira.
With that being said, why is Jones, of all people, so hell-bent on favoring Pereira for the win? Well, it's like I said, he seems to think that Pereira is Adesanya's version of kryptonite. While talking about the upcoming fight between Pereira and Adesanya, Jones said he doesn't see the middleweight title changing hands anytime soon. He believes that Adesanya just doesn't have it in him to step up to Pereira and come out with a win. He thinks that the Brazilian has the winning game plan in mind, and the result will be the same as the last few times these two met in the octagon. I'm not gonna lie, there's a very high possibility that Jones is right. He talked about how some fighters just know what to do against a certain opponent. When it comes to Pereira, he seemingly figured Israel Adesanya out in every way possible. That way, there's no chance of the last stylebender accidentally surprising Alex with something new. What can I say? Maybe Israel's just one of those fighters who he's managed to figure out. One thing's for sure, and that's the fact that unless Adesanya manages to dissect this issue, there's no way he can beat the champion. And so we have to arrive at the final question. Who has the best chance of coming out with the win? Adesanya or Pereira? This isn't an easy question to answer, but it's something that needs to be talked about. It's no secret that Adesanya's a very talented fighter. He's probably more talented than Pereira ever will be. However, there's one situation where the Brazilian always manages to come out on top.
Can isolate that, but it's a nasty welt on his left cheek.
And John, honestly, that's what I was speaking to with all the clinch and the grab. Oh, my goodness!
Alex Pereira.
That's what I'm talking about.
How good is that?
Wow!
That's what I'm telling you. It's a different kind of power.
Of course, I'm talking about none other than the final rounds of his bout against Israel. From what I can tell, Pereira doesn't mind letting the entire fight get out of hand. All he seems to be concerned about is waiting till the last second to pounce. The most lethal part about this whole thing is the fact that Adesanya hasn't seemed to have figured out a counter to this strategy yet. His coach did talk about how Adesanya just has to work on a few things to secure his victory. If there's one thing that I know for sure, it's the fact that if Adesanya manages to come out with a win this time around, he'll have defeated the final boss. With Pereira out of the way, there won't be a lot of people disputing his claim to the title of one of the GOATs of the middleweight division. Still, it's too early to tell how the fight will end up going. I can sit here and talk about all this stuff, but at the end of the day, we're just going to wait and see what happens when Adesanya and Pereira meet up in the octagon for a fourth and probably final time. It'll be a fight that sells out whichever arena it's hosted in. And that's everything you need to know about John Jones and his prediction for UFC 287.